This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
As always, we begin Rishus D'Marda Asra, Harav Landau, with continued appreciation to all of you for coming and making this year possible. Tonight we do not have a sponsor, but since today's edition of Mishnah Yomis was sponsored by Ms. Esther Stern and the Stern family, we will extend it also to the Chumash here and learn the Ilai Nishma Serol Bas Yeshaya. Her yahrzeit was today. Her neshama should have an aliyah. She should be a militzis yaisher for her family, for all of us, and all of Klal Yisrael. We learn with the tefillah that all those that have been touched by the dreaded machla, known as Yana Machla, the related diseases, should have a refuah shalema b'sek shachar Yisrael. All of us and our loved ones should always be healthy. We learn that those that are looking for their shidduch should find their shidduch quickly and easily. Those that are awaiting children should be blessed with children and healthy mommy, healthy babies, Zarachaya v'Kayama. Those that are looking for parnasa or better parnasa should be blessed. B'revach u'b'kavod. Please watch the wire. Sir, please watch the wire. And a lot of people do not get the share if that wire goes out. So that's why I'm always very careful with the wire. And all of us should have lang gesunte Zisa Shalom Bayis. In general, if you want to sponsor a share, it's $300, and to be a postal sponsor is $360. You could call me anytime during the week at 718-916-3100 or email me at rmmwsi@aol.com. Before speaking about the parsha, quite a few people asked me via phone and in person the same question, and I did a lot of thought this week, and I came up with the siyata d'shmaya. I could actually say I felt Hashem Heir Einai with an answer to the question. So let me share with you first the question. Last week we quoted a Targum Yonasan ben Uziel that said that the reason why Yosef cried when he met Yaakov was not because of the tearful moment of a reunion after 22 years of a father and a son, but rather it was because Yosef did not send an advanced scout ahead to let Yaakov know that he was coming, and therefore when he came with his entourage of page and squires and soldiers, Yaakov thought he was Paro and bowed down to him, and therefore Yosef lost 10 years of his life, because he caused a father to bow down to his son, which is an infraction of kibbud avayim. And as we said, Laman Yarichin Yamecha is Michlal Ein Ata Shemei Alav. If you do something to generate not disgrace, or you cause a person to be degraded, a parent, and it could shorten your life. And since Yosef didn't have the foresight to send an advanced scout ahead, therefore Yaakov ended up bowing down to his son, which was a humiliation, and therefore Yosef lost 10 years of his life. And the Pirush Yonasan adds on the Targum Yonasan ben Uziel, and this explains why Yosef cried and Yaakov did not cry. Rashi says it was because Yaakov was saying Kriya Shema, which then lends itself to the question, then why wasn't Yosef saying Kriya Shema? The famous answer is because Yosef was Isaac b'mitzvah of kibbud avayim and Isaac b'mitzvah potem in a mitzvah. But either way, others say it wasn't his man Kriya Shema, but Yaakov was afraid that the love for Yosef would eclipse his love for Hashem, and therefore he was saying Kriya Shema, that at that moment he shouldn't forget Kabbalah Zolma Shemayim. But either way, the kasha becomes, as we said, but here's the question. The question I was asked, Mr. Simons asked me the question, my Talmud Erwin Keller asked me the question in Staten Island, others as well, but it was the fulfillment of the dream for Yaakov to bow down. Because it says Hashem Eshva Yoreach and the Yod Aleph Koichavim, and therefore it was the Ratzon of Hashem that Yaakov should bow down, because Yaakov was the Shemesh. And we know you're not allowed to be kovesh a nevuah. You're not allowed to squash a nevuah. So you're asking Yosef to have foresight to tell his father that it's him, and then he wouldn't bow down, but it was the Ratzon of Hashem that he should bow down. That's a very strong question. Some wanted to suggest, and indeed I was by Chasana Sunday night, and I mentioned it to Rav Eitan Feiner, and he suggested as well that maybe since there's no dream, she'ein ba divrei shtus, there's no dream that doesn't have some shtus, so maybe Yosef should have thought that this was the shtus of the dream, and he should have told his father, and the fact that the son bowed down, that was the shtus. It's not mashma that way, as I told Rabbi Feiner. First of all, you see in the Ramban that Yosef took the dreams as, so to speak, gospel, to the point that he orchestrated that Binyamin should come down before his father, so that the first dream without the sun and the moon should be fulfilled first. So you see that he caused his father the great pain of separating from Binyamin in order to fulfill every detail of the dream. We also see that the Rishonim that are troubled, who was the moon in the dream? It can't be Rachel because his mother wasn't alive. They didn't say that that was Divrei Shtus. They say that the moon was Bila, and that Bila is because Kol HaMegadol Yasem B'Sech Beisai Kilu Yoldai. So all that I was left with till actually last night is to say that what the time of the time Yonasan ben Uziel was on Yosef is that he should have sent a scout ahead of time, that Yaakov should know that it's not Paro that was coming, because that was Yaakov's mistake. He thought it was Paro, with all these squires and pages and soldiers. He thought it was Paro. He should have sent an advance scout and let Yaakov make the decision on his own if he wants to bow down. Later on in this week's parasha, he would bow down. He would bow down because the Shechina is Shaira by the bed of a Chayil. He would bow down. And the Rashi says he actually bowed down to Yosef. Al Skavad Amalchus. So, but let your father decide. Don't decide for him. However, it dawned on me last night what pshat in the time Yonis ben Uziel is. And that is, there was a time on Yosef. You should have told and sent a scout out to your father that it's you. Because then when your father will bow down, he'll bow down to fulfill the dream, to fulfill the Nevuas Hashem. And we know that Yaakov was waiting for the fulfillment because it says, Va'aviv Shomer Es Hadavar, which we said means that he was waiting for its fulfillment. By not telling him and having him bow down to Paro, it turns out that you took away from him the opportunity to fulfill the Ratzon Hashem and to be Mekayim the Nevuas Hashem, and at the end it was only that he was bowing down to his son, which is a humiliation. If you would have told him ahead of time, you would have given him the chance to fulfill the he says, oh Baruch Hashem, you see, the prophecy of the Rebbeinu Shalom is now being fulfilled with me bowing down. You took away from him that simcha, that opportunity to fulfill the Nevuas Hashem. Now, I also had another thought, and that is, okay, so you mean because Yosef didn't have the foresight, or maybe misinterpreted what to do, he loses 10 years of his life? You have to realize that certain sins are especially bad when they're done at certain junctures. This was a moment that people should be extremely mindful and careful about Kibbut Avei. Why? Because as Yaakov arrives to meet Yosef and reunite with Yosef exactly 22 years after they were separated, the message was mamish, bright and clear, blatant to all. 22 years, corresponding to the 22 years that Yaakov was in Mekayim Kibbut Av with Yitzchak and Rivka. Whoa! This was a moment to realize the weightiness of Kibbut Aveng. At that moment, there's a special kitrug and a special prosecution of any type of infraction of Kibbut Aveng. Similar to the fact that because Moshe Rabbeinu delayed circumcising his son, he was almost swallowed by a snake. For a delay? We're not talking about a day, we're talking about moments. For a delay, because he was misasik b'malon tchila. He didn't want the women to have to stand out, so he wanted to get them settled. So because of that, he was going to be swallowed alive? Yeah, because you represent the people who are being punished because Kishemeis Yosef Eiferu Bris Mila Amru Niyah Kemitzvim, and Klal Yisrael stop circumcising themselves. At that juncture, you have to be very careful in the Mila. And that's why when Moshe Rabbeinu hit the water, when it came to the Makkah of Dam, he didn't hit the water. And when it came to the Makkah of Tzadeh, he didn't hit the water. And when it came to the Makkah of Lice, he didn't hit the earth. Because I tell you, even to a daimim? Yes, because he saw that there was a tremendous din against Paro, because he wasn't Makkah Toif to Yosef saving Mitzrayim. So at certain junctures, you have to be extremely careful. One more flashback to last week, before we go to this week, the help of Hashem. I mentioned last week that the fundamental directive of Hillel, which he said was a capsule of Kol HaTorah Kula. Madesani loch lechabrech lo yisafet. What you do not like, don't do to your friend. Zeh Kol HaTorah Kula, that's the whole Torah, v'idach perusha. You don't like to be snapped at, don't snap at someone else. You don't like to have somebody be curt with you, don't be curt with someone else. Says the Dobna Magid. It's amazing. It's amazing how much is in the words of Chazal, and how you could look at it from different vantage points. Says the Dobna Magid, I'll tell you an entirely different shot in what Hillel was saying. It's also true. Ma de Sunny Loch. What? Hates you? What hates you? Somebody said, I don't have an enemy. We all do. What hates you? The Yetzirah. Ma de Sunny Loch lechavreich lo yisafet. Don't make him your pal. Ma de Sunny Loch. What hates you in life? The Yetzirah? Don't make him your buddy. There are people who the Yetzirah is their best friend. Yetzirah is their best friend. They're taking him to one sin to the other. Come. From the computer, let's go out and waste time. And now let's go to the bar. Yeah, now let's sleep late. The pal. Stay up. Mad Sunny Luck, what hates you? Don't make him your buddy. And Hillel says, that's the whole Torah. The whole Torah is about making choices. That's the whole Torah. Remember we said that if you have a choice whether to unload your friend's animal or load your enemy's animal, so first of all it's your friend, and second of all unloading takes away Tzab Alichayim. Tzab Alichayim is the Raisa. Says, no, let your friend leave him in the dust. Leave him in the dust. And let the animal grovel. Inside, go help your enemy. Because Kayef liyitzrei adav tvei, to subdue your Yetzirah, that you don't want to help your enemy. That's more important. That's more important. That's life. Life is subduing the Yetzirah. Zeh kol HaTorah kula. So, Moed Kipshat. Ma de Sunny Loch, the one that hates you, the Yetzirah hates us. He hates us. He's called the true enemy. The Archaim Amiti says that it's the Oyev Hagadol, the big enemy. One who hates you Don't make him your friend. And that, I believe, that's another pshat in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that says, Al tischaber l'Rasha. Don't attach yourself to the Rasha. The Rasha means the Yetzer Hara. Don't make him your buddy. Some people are controlled. That's what it says. Rishoyim, the wicked, b'rishos libam. They're under the control of their hearts. Which heart? Doesn't mean the heart of the Yetzer Tov. It means the hearts of the Yetzer Hara. They're under control. The friend is in control. He wears the pants. Now I'll tell you, to segue, even though it's out of order, I'll tell you from this week's parsha, we see this word. B'cha yevarech Yisrael leimer. And over here in the parsha, we won't have time for it today. Other years we mentioned it. But here in the parsha, we find in the words of the Achrayim a lot of discussion about benching children on Shabbos, and why dafka Friday night, because the person has a neshama yisera and is extra shefa bracha on Shabbos, and a person is more ru'udik on Shabbos, so therefore the bracha is given with a leiv shalom, and because maybe the parents got angry at the children during the week, so therefore they mavarich them so that the children shouldn't be hurt by causing the parents pain. A lot of reasons, and there's a lot of talk whether you should do the bracha with two hands, or one hand, not to be like a kohen, and in one hand there's 15 evarim connected to 15 words. Yivarech Hashem b'yishmerecha. There's all kinds of Torah, but we're not going to go into that right now. You should bench your children Friday night. It's a license that parents have. They don't have to be rebbes. They don't have to be great people. It's enough to be a tata. A tata benches his children Friday night, and the children remember it. It's a tremendous thing. But Rav Shmuel Hamaner addresses the famous question of why we say Yisimcha Lekim K'Fraim Menashe, and not like Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, not like Reuven and Shimon, not like Levi and Yisachar, not like Yehuda, right? Like Ephraim and Menashe. There are many answers. But he says the famous answer that we bench them like Ephraim and Menashe because Ephraim and Menashe grew up in a hostile environment. In the environment of a land, Shtufei Zima, in an environment of a land of Tumah, in an environment where there weren't a family social structure around them, in a family where there was no yeshiva around them, and yet they prevailed. And yet they became like Reuven and Shimon. Ephraim and Menashe to Reuven and Shimon Yuli. So Rav Shmuel Hamaner explains, and the Sefer Parsha Makima elaborates, that since Ephraim and Menashe were able to be oimed on the nisyonis that they had in this land, and Harba nisyonis growing up alone in the palace, or in the decadent palace of Paro, without any support system at all. That's the Maila HaGedoyla Ba'adam. That's the Chiddush. The greatest accomplishment of a mensch is to be Oimed B'Nisyonis. And that's why we bench our children K'Fraim Menashe. And this is what the Dovna Maggid is saying, Madisani Lach L'Chabrech Lo Yisavid, what the enemy wants. The one who hates you, don't make him a friend. That's the Yetzer Hara. Zeh Kol HaTorah Kula. And that's the bracha we give to the children when we say they should be like Ephraim and Menashe. To be oimed on the daily nisyonis of life like they did in the hostile environment of Mitzrayim, without a social circle. We all know that there's no hefsek in the Sefer Torah between Vayigash and Vayechi. It's called the Parsha Stuma. It runs one right into another. And although I would always talk every year about the Gematria of Vayechi, here I'm going to mention the smichas of what it says, Vayifru, Vayirbu, Ma'id, Vayechi Yaakov. Because that, without any interruption, it runs right into each other. Vayifru vayirbu ma'od, Vayechi Yaakov. And I want to suggest that the juxtaposition, the smichas, has a very, very important message. That when a family has a lot of children, Vayifru vayirbu ma'od, and the family grows, and it branches off, and there's a lot of grandchildren, that causes Vayechi, that causes longevity. It's what the Chassam Sofer says. Chassam Sofer says, "V'hoisircha Hashem b'fri bitnacha." Hashem will give you extra years because of pri bitnacha. We stay on this world when we're needed, and if we're needed as a zaydah, and there's a lot of grandchildren and great grandchildren, and we work on being mechanech them, so then that's a reason to live long. So vayifru vayirbu ma'od, that generates vayechi. I'll tell you, I have the zechiyah to have one of my married children in Staten Island, and my Einikel Aaron Tzvi was in the house, and my wife made a bracha, and I said to Aaron Tzvi, answer Amen. So he says, Amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah. So my daughter said, what was that? See, look, Zaidi says it in shul. I never said to him, say Amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah, but I say Amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah. So he learned to say Amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah. That's chinuch. That's longevity. That's why it's called an einikel. Einikel means einoi ukel. It's from the lashon of sneh. Asneh einenu ukel. It doesn't end. It doesn't just mean that we have an einikel that ensures that the family line is not ending, but it also means that the zaydi, the babi, doesn't end. Because if you're there to teach, so that's vayifru vayirbu ma'od vayechi. That extends life. It's the pashtus of what we're saying over here. And that's also the meaning of what it says in Pirkei Avos. And remember, lefnei mi ato osid litein din v'cheshbon. Remember before whom you're going to give a din v'cheshbon. What's the lashon din v'cheshbon? So the Gaon says the Pashup Pshat. It's Pashup because we heard it from the Gaon. The Gaon says that din is for the sin that you do. So if you're talking shul, that's the din. Gadol avoinah min asay. The cheshbon is what you could have been doing instead of talking. You could have been davening. So the cheshbon is what you could have been doing. Here you were shooting the breeze with your friend. So the din is for the lashon hara that you spoke. The cheshbon is you could have been learning takfakayin. Could have been learning. That's din v'cheshbon. That's the Gaon's pshat. But many others learn din v'cheshbon is as follows. Din is for what you're doing. Let's take again the example of talking in shul. Din is for talking in shul. Cheshbon is for the 5 people that look at you and say, if he could talk, I could talk. Cheshbon is the ripple effect. And in the positive, din v'cheshbon din is what you do. Cheshbon is that you're an example for your children, and therefore they say Amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah. That's the ripple effects. It's not only negative, it's not only damage, it's consequences. It could be consequences for the good. But there's another thing. We don't even have to go to the Vayifru Vayirbu. Just that last word in Vayigash, Ma'od Vayechi Yaakov. Ma'od, very much did Yaakov live. What's pshat in that? Simple. We have a tradition. Yaakov Avinu loy meis. Why? What's Ma'od Vayechi Yaakov? Right? That's, so to speak, in the colloquial way of today, he lives it up. Ma'od Vayechi Yaakov. Why? Because Yaakov was Yish Torah. Matovu alecha Yaakov Yish Tam Yoshev Oyolim. Right? Oyolim in the plural means Oyel Hashem ve'ever. Matovu Oyel Yaakov ain't Tov el Torah. Oh, that's why Ma'od Vayechi Yaakov. Ma'od Vayechi Yaakov, not just because Torah is Oirech Yomim B'Yamina, Eitz Chayim Hi L'Machazikim Ba. Not just qualitatively, Ki Maitzai Motzah Chayim. Not just that. But that's Nitzchias. What's Nitzchias? Torah. Ma'od Vayechi Yaakov, throughout the millennium, throughout the infinite years of the next world. That's what it says in Pirkei Avos. Kanu Lai Torah. If you acquire Torah, Kanu Lai Chayim Olam Haba. That's the afterlife. That's forever. That's what we do here today. This is forever. If people would know, we'd have to put an easy pass in front of the door and charge who knows what. People would know, kind of like what we're getting for tonight. Kind of like Torah, kind of like Chayei Olam Haba. V'ata shnei vanecha noiladim l'cha Ephraim and Menashe Keruvain v'Shimon Yehuli. They're like Ruvain and Shimon. Keruvain v'Shimon Yehuli. So the Siddur HaYavitz, the Kedushas HaLevi, they all say, and others, that just like the three Moyadim are connected, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Pesach is Avram, Shavuos is Yitzchak, Sukkot is Yaakov, the Zohar says Shabbos is Noach, Menucha. So they say that the Rosh Chodesh, the 12 months, the Chadashim are connected to Shvatim. And Yosef is Adar. Why? Because Yosef is Adar is Mazel Dogim. The Mazel, the sign of the month of Adar, is Dogim, fish, and we know that fish are impervious to the Ayin Hara. And Yosef leishalta be'ayin, like it says Ben Paris, Yosef Ben Paris alei ayin, and Rashi says olei ayin, he's over the Ayin Hara. It says v'yid gul arrive, that Yosef is kidigei hayam, just like the fish, there's no Ayin Hara. So that's why Yosef is Adar. So therefore, the Mefarshim extend this and say, the Sheslevi, others say, that's why Adar sometimes has 2 months, like this year. Why? Adar has 2 months because we know that Yosef would have 2 Shvatim, Ephraim and Menashe, Keruvain and Shimon Leoli. So therefore, since it's connected to Shvatim, it has 2 Adars because really Yosef is 2 Shvatim, Ephraim and Menashe. It also fits in according to this, the Mazel Dog, because you look in Chavakuk, it says in the Navi Chavakuk, remember it says in Pirkei Avos, if there's no Shloimeh Shal Malchus Ishes Re'ehu Chayim B'loi, a man will swallow his friend alive. That's why it says in the Navi Chavakuk that man is not compared to a dog or a cat, because a dog doesn't eat a dog and a cat doesn't eat a cat. It's compared to a fish, because fish eat fish. They eat fish. That's why Yosef is Mazel Dog, because the brothers tried to eat him. Tried to eat him. And it fits in very well because what's in the month of Adar? Purim. Esther. Perfect. Just like Yosef grew up in the palace of a guy and was niskadol b'beisai shel guy, so also Esther was niskadol b'beisai shel guy in the house of Achashverosh. I even wanted to contemplate that Yosef is Adar because we know Nisan, the next month, is the time of Geula, the time of Mashiach ben David. Benisan Nigal, Benisan Asidan Ligal. And what happened before Mashiach ben David? It would be Mashiach ben Yosef, who would be killed by the Satan. Right? That's the V'asa Sheikhet V'Shachad L'Seira. That's it says V'asa Malcham Avos V'Shachad L'Sheikhet. That's the Mashiach Shel Yosef. So that's why Yosef comes right before Nisan. And now we're going to talk about a very important subject that's very dear to me. We mentioned part of this in previous years, but I want to elaborate. May Osher Shmeino Lachmai, Hu Yitein Madanei Melech. So we have the famous Medrash Talpias in the name of the Arizal. The Medrash Talpias says that when a person passes away, he calls for help. And when he calls to Usher, Usher asks, did you learn Mishnayos? V'im amaloi hein, and if a person says yes, miyad, immediately, moitzi oisoi megehenim. Wow. It's an escape route from Gehenna. And that's why it says, May Osher Shmeina. Shmeina is Osher's Mishnah. Osher retrieves from Gehenna anyone that learns regularly Mishnayos. And not only that, adds the Medrash Talpiyas. I never said this over. Not only that, the Gam Mavil LeGan Eden. He then brings him to Gan Eden. This Mishnah learner, he brings to Gan Eden because the pasuk says, and what happens if you have Mishnah? Oh, you know what happens if you have Mishnah? Whoa. V'hu yitein madanei melech. He will be given royal gifts, Eden, pleasure, madanei melech. He'll bring him to Gan Eden. The Chidah says the same idea. The Chidah writes that Osher is Oimed B'Pesach Gehenim. He stands by the door of Gehenim. He doesn't let anybody in. You don't even need a retrieval. He doesn't let anybody in that learns regularly Mishnayos. And I've said in the past that this is why I believe Rabbeinu HaKadosh starts out Shas with the word Me'ei Mosai. Me'ei Mosai Karin Hashma B'Arvin. It's an anomaly. The whole Shas, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi practices Nokat Tana Lishna Ketzar. The Tana uses a short language, right? Because Torah Shabbat Peh originally was learned by heart, and short is precise, like Rashi is Kurt and Sharf, right? It's Kurtz and Sharf. It's precise. It's called L'Shaina Azov. Every little piece of dust, every little drop of ink is worth it. It's golden, right? So yet, he starts off Shas. He could have said Mosai, like we say in davening, Mosai. He could have said, hey Mosai. But here he starts out with this inflated word, Meye Mosai. It doesn't sound like a good trendsetter. But Meye Mosai is exactly Gematria 501, and that's Gematria Usher. 501. Because he wanted to say that in the beginning of the Mishnah, you should know, you embark on a career of Mishnah, Osher stands in front of Gehenim and doesn't let you in. What a reason to learn Mishnayos. Comes along the Bnei Yissaschar. And the Bnei Yissaschar says that if you count the Parakim in Mishnayos, there are 538 Parakim in Mishnayos. 538 Parakim in Mishnayos. Somebody have a calculator on that? Nobody in the room has a calculator? You gotta be kidding. Do a quick calculation. How much is 18 into 538? But anyway, there's 538 Parakim in Mishnayos. 538. Isn't that amazing? There are many tzaddikim. One of them that I know was the Frierdiker Skolyer Rebbe, who had a minig to learn Chai Prokim of Mishnayos every day. So it's interesting. The cheshbon of Chai Prokim of Mishnayos is to finish Mishnayos once a month. They finish in 29.8 days. Right? So that's once a month. That's the cheshbon of Chai Prokim. It's not easy to do, Rabbi say. Chai Prokim. But there were people that have a minute to do Chai Prokim. That's finishing it once a month. So it's 538 Prokim. He says the gematria of 538, this is a Bnei Yisachar, the gematria of 538 is the gematria of Mafteach. Mafteach, a key. Because he says Mishnayos is the key to the Geula. He brings down the Yalkut Shemaini. The Yalkut Shemaini says, Ein ha-Golius miskantzos ela b'schus Mishnayos. The Golius are only miskansos, all those that are spread around the Arba Conference are gathered b'schus Mishnayos. So he says when you learn Mishnayos, it's the mafteach, it's the key to the Gula. You're actually being maybe the Gula. And it's interesting that this explained to me a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch that I never knew this connection. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, when he talks about Tikkun Chatzos, they used to sit on the floor at midnight and mourn for the Beis Hamikdash. He says if you do Tikkun Chatzos, I always say if somebody comes home very late from a chasana because he stayed for a mitzvah times and it's after Chatzos, or you come to one of my Daf Yomis in Borough Park and you come home after Chatzos, right? So you should sit on the floor for a few minutes. Don't have to say the whole thing. Say one paragraph of Tikkun Chatzos in the siddur slowly, and more for the Beis Hamikdash. And then he says it's good to learn something. V'shir Mishnayos koydem l'chol davar. He says shir Mishnayos is the choice thing to learn. He says because Mishnah is oisiyos neshama. That's what the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says. But now it's perfect. Because we said from the Bnei Yissaschar, Tikkun Chatzos is mourning over the Beis Hamikdash, and ein agoylos miskansos ela b'shvil Mishnayos. So what better thing to do after saying Tikkun Chatzos than to learn Mishnayos? Naftali ayala shlucha hanoisin imrei shofar. Naftali is like a swift hind who says beautiful things. The Imrei Noyim, which is a recording of Mamorim of Balei Tosfos, it was from the Balei Tosfos, says an interesting thing. He says, why is Naftali swift? So you'll say, what do you mean, why is Naftali swift? First of all, he wears Nike cross trainers, and he's trained for the marathon. He has a good build. He's lanky and tall, and he has good. What do you mean, why is he? Says the Balei Tosfos, you don't need me for that. I'm telling you, that's not why he was wearing a good pair of Adidas. Or in the olden days, maybe Keds. It's not because he was, he trained 6 hours every day. He ran 5 miles a day. That's not why. Naftali ayola shluchi was like a swift hind, like a swift deer. Because I know he's saying Imrei Shefer. Listen to what he says. Because he always had a good word for anybody that he came across. Good morning, how are you? How's your wife? Nice tie. Car's looking good. It's a pleasure to see you walking with your wife. He always said something good. So when he was in a rush, nobody got in his way and everybody facilitated him. That's what, that's the connection. Naftali al shlucha, you know why? Hanoi saying Imrei Shefer. And I'll tell you, you know this is true. I'm always nice to everybody at the post office. If I arrive 3 minutes after 5, they open the door for me. Okay, it doesn't hurt that I spend who knows how much money in the post office. That probably doesn't hurt. But they don't care. They're not getting the money. They don't care how many stamps you buy. But they do care about a good morning. And, oh, those are your kids in the picture? What a handsome group you have. Right? You look tired today. Make sure to get a good night's sleep. And those are the things that help. Right? If you go on a bus every day, and it's the same bus driver, and you say, I hope it doesn't snow until you're home for your route. Then, if you need to get off in the middle of stops because you're in a rush, oh sure, no problem. I'm surprised you even had to ask. Naftali Ayola Shlucha, why? Because I know he's in Imrei Shefer. Because he has said nice things and a tremendous lesson from the Balei Tosfos. Well, eventually, dentists always raise their eyebrows at this, but there's famous mamorim on this, that Goyim and Yidden have different amount of teeth in their mouth. Medrash Talpias and others say that a Yid has 32 teeth. There is a interesting, I always heard that a Goy has 31 teeth. And that's based on the fact that that's why if the Rasha isn't behaving at the Seder, we tell him, Hake Yashinov, Ilu Yasham Lo Yanigo, you would remain the Goy. You would remain the Goy. And therefore, knock out his teeth, he doesn't deserve to have the 32 teeth. They bring down a remes to the fact that a Goy has 31 teeth because it says, Lo Yasachein L'chol Goy. Lo Yasachein L'chol Goy. Lo is B'gematria 31. Lo is done for a Goy. Mishpatim Baal Yidon. He doesn't get the Baal. He doesn't get the 32. Only Yidden get it. That's the Makar that they bring. But I saw there's a Medrash Talpias that says that a Goy has 33 teeth. A Yid has 32, 16 on top and 16 on bottom. So it's interesting, and this is the reason why I'm repeating this, although I said most of this before, even though I never saw the Medrash Talpias that says 33 teeth. But in the Derech Sicha, it brings down, Derech Sicha is what was recorded from statements from Rav Chaim Kanievsky. So Rav Chaim Kanievsky relates that he heard from Rav Zilberstein that Rav Zilberstein heard that there's a dentist in America who counts the teeth. And if you have 32 teeth, he doesn't treat you. It's a rabid anti-Semite. And if you have 32 teeth, he does not treat you. Obviously, if you hold that Goy has 33, so he has to make sure that there wasn't a tooth pulled or a wisdom tooth taken out. But he's savvy enough to know that there wasn't an original 33rd tooth there, or if it's according to the other version, so 32 and not 31, he doesn't treat you. So in the Sefer Oitzer Plois, it's interesting, in Sefer Oitzer Plois, he brings down in his footnote that when he visited Reb Chaim Kanievsky, he asked him if this is true, and Reb Chaim Kanievsky told him yes, it's true. There's a dentist in America. If somebody had 32 teeth, he refused to treat him. Hamavlu ben Yisrael, amen. In light of distinction between a Yid and a Goy, we have a movement today, a feminist movement, that women are equal to men. And in that equality means that anything that a man can do, I can do just as well. If not better, just as well. Which is, we all believe that women and men are equal. But they're not the same. The Gemara says, for example, why is a woman's voice softer? If she tries to yell, it comes out as a screech. So the Gemara says 2 reasons: that she should be able to coo to her baby, and she should be able to seduce her husband. There are differences between a man and a woman. And here is an interesting one, which I never knew. On the pasuk Vayechi Gems, that Yisachar would bend his shoulder down to carry the burden of Torah. The ancient Sefer Shar HaShamayim says, if you see pictures, especially in the districts of Africa, you'll see that women carried baskets on their head. So the Shar HaShamayim says, why is it that women carry things on their head and men carry things on their shoulder? It's fascinating. It says the anatomy of the head of a woman is different than a man. A man has one seam in the head. A woman has one seam in the head, while a man has many seams, many tfiros. And therefore that's why women carry things on their head and men carry things on their shoulder. Fascinating thing. This is not from a recent study. This is from the Shar HaShamayim, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But again, it's just the idea that men and women are different. Women have the apparatus to feed children. Men don't. Of course they're equal. But they're not the same. Equal but different. V'shama kavarti es Leah, I found a short statement from the Gaon, which is a basis to something that I only, until now, quoted from Rav David Feinstein Shlita. The Gaon writes, V'shama kavarti es Leah, Leah Mesa koidem shenimker Yosef, O be'es mechiras Yosef meis bas mem heishon. Now, with that short statement, I believe the Gaon is alluding to something that Rav David said. Rav David said, and I saw this brought down in the Art Scroll Chumash in a footnote. Rav David said that if Leah would have been alive, her influence would have stopped the Shvatim from selling Yosef. There would be no Mechiras Yosef. It's only because she was already gone that such a thing, that's the influence of a mama. Mama has special influence. And I believe that's what the Gaon is saying over here when he just highlights Leah Mesa Kodim Shenimker Yosef. Zvulun l'chayf yamim yishkain. Zvulun lives by the sea, which of course in olden days the port cities were the wealthy cities. That's why the Gemara tells us Mechuzah was a very wealthy city. The Mechuzah was a port city. And that's where they were able to do import and export. So Zvulun l'chayf yamim yishkain. He controlled the docks. He controlled the ports. Right? There was a very wealthy Roman city. I'm not sure how to pronounce it in English. Maybe somebody knows. Caesarea? Caesarea it's pronounced? Caesarea? Okay. So anyway, it always says the Chachmei Caesari, which Caesarea was a very wealthy Roman town that had Yidden living in it. It was a very wealthy. Why was it wealthy? Because it was a wealthy port city. So Zvulun l'chayf yamim yishka. So the Gaon quotes a famous Agadita in Masechtas Bava Basra in the 5th parak. When you learn the Agadita, you have no idea what it's talking about. The Agadita Gemara goes like this. The Gemara says that Rabbi Baba Chana says, I have to tell you what I once saw. I once saw a frog that was as big as 60 houses. It was like the size of the city of Hagrunya. I don't know if anybody ever saw such a big frog. The frog was the size of Borough Park, right? Or at least a few blocks, right? It's the size of 52nd Street, right? And I saw a snake come and swallow the frog. Then I saw a raven, a female raven, come and swallow the snake. And then it went and perched itself upon a tree. Says the Gemara, this must have been some big tree. Right? That's the Gemara, right? The frog was like 60 houses, the city of Agrunya. It was swallowed by a snake. A raven came and ate the snake and perched on a tree. Wow, that must be some tree. When you learned out in the Daf Yomi, you don't exactly know what to make of it. Says the Gaon, I'll tell you what pshat is. The Gaon says that Tzvardeya is the Talmud Chacham. Tzvardeya doesn't stop making noise day and night. So it's the Talmud Chacham that learns day and night. He says he's as big as 60 batim, that's 60 Masechtas. Shas, 60 Masechtas. Shash is not only Shishis Sidarim, but it's Shishim Svarim. It's 60 Masechtas. The Tanin that came along and swallowed is the Tanin, of course the snake is the Yetzirah. They came to try to swallow the Talmud Chacham. The Oirev, the raven that doesn't have a lot of food, that represents the Talmud Chacham, that even though he doesn't have much, he still perseveres to learn. He swallows the snake. Then the raven, who's hard up, perches on the tree The tree is the Machzikei Torah. Eitz Chayim Hila Machazikim Ba. And it says the Gemara, Re'ei Kama Gadol Koicha Shalila. See how great it is, somebody that's Machazik Torah. That both Yaakov and Moshe Rabbeinu mentioned Zvulun before Yisachar. Smach Zvulun b'tzeisecha b'Yisachar b'Oilecha. See how great it is to be Machazik Torah. So the Goin does with a Maimer Chazal. Vayehi Lamas Oived. And Yisachar was a taskmaster. He bent himself, not taskmaster, he bent himself to do work, to do service. So here again the Goin, this is Yisachar. Here again the Goin weighs in, and the Goin says, that's the way of Yisachar. Shalamdu l'kol Yisrael Torah, who taught to all of Klal Yisrael Torah. And that's what it says. Rabbi Gamliel told people that accepted the rabbinate, that accepted to be rebellion. You should know, Lo Yisroros ani noisen lachem. I'm not giving you nobility. I'm not giving you honor. Ela avdos ani noisen lachem. I'm giving you servitude. But Daf Yomi might get share. He has to do a lot of work. Every day he has to prepare share. Avdos ani noisen lachem. So that's what it says. B'nei Yisachar yoidei bine le'itin l'das ma'yasa Yisrael. Here the Goin says an amazing thing. The B'nei Yisachar yoidei bine le'itin, who understood the times, l'das, to know ma'yasa Yisrael. The job of a leader is to understand what the times need. That's why, to be a good Rav, to be a good Rebbe, you have to be adaptable. You have to be flexible. You can't talk this. If I would look at the lectures that I gave 25 years ago, they're diametrically opposed to what I'm, not opposed, but they're completely different. 25 years ago, there was no cell phone. There was no computer. We just started. Tandy, Radio Shack, IBM AT. There was no email, there was no texting, there was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, there was no LinkedIn, there was no IMing. There was no shidduch crisis, at least not for the girls. It's a different world. And just like if I would get up and speak now, I don't want anybody in this year entertaining going to Baal Pa'or this weekend, or throwing stones at Hercules. Or if I would tell you that if you don't go Aliyah L'Regel, you're guilty. Otherwise, you're living out of touch. It's true. Children have to be known. You have to know how to talk to a child today. The child today needs so much warmth, it's unbelievable. Uvenei Yisachar yoidei binei leitim. Ladas, to know my Yasa Yisrael. It says, Ruvain, Chayriyata, Keichi v'reishis aini. Yes, it says, yes, it's what you were supposed to get. You say, Nasias Kamayim, you were supposed to be Kayin, you were supposed to be Melech. Pachas Kamayim, but you were hasty like water, Altaiser, you won't excel. You lost it, lost everything. Pachas Kamayim, a leader has to be deliberate. A leader can't react with the crowd. A leader can't react right away. Altaiser, you lost it. So the Chidah brings down from the Rav HaGadol, he calls him, Harav Al-Ghazi. He says, but we don't find anywhere in our literature that a melech, a navi, because he makes a mistake, he loses it. And even though I might insert, but we do find Shaul made a mistake and he lost the Malchus, but he didn't lose it for himself. He lost it for the future. But Shmuel didn't say that you're not king anymore. And we don't find that. We don't find impeachment. Even wicked kings. We don't find impeachment by Klal Yisrael. So he says, how come over here Reuven's impeached? Right? You lost it. You lost the kahuna. You lost the Malchus. So says the Chidah in the Pnei David. He says, there is no impeachment in Yiddishkeit. Just, if you didn't get it yet, you don't get it. Reuven was slated to get it. He didn't get it yet. And therefore he lost it. I'll tell you so. You won't excel. But once you have it, you don't take it away. Now, this is very important. Because we find, in America nowadays, the idea of loyalty has gone the way of the dinosaurs. Loyalty is almost unheard of. That's why we have marriages, even marriages 30 years old, that crumble overnight. Jobs are lost, pink slips are given after 25 years of devoted service, without even a warning, without even remorse. And Rabbonim are sent away after decades of service. A new generation comes. That's not the way of the Torah. It's not. That's not the way of the Torah. And now I'm going to speak about a very painful subject. It's a subject that we usually speak about in Parshas Kairach. But it originates in this week's Parsha. It says, B'kaholam al teichad kivaydi. Yaakov asks Hashem, please, B'kaholam, when they gather, do not put my honor in, keep me out of it. As Rashi explains, Kishakal Kairach, when Kairach congregated, Shmi al Yachid, Sham al Yisyachid Aleim Shmi, don't allow my name to be mentioned. And Yaakov got his request, Shenem Avayikach Kairach ben Yitzhak ben Kos ben Levi, but it doesn't say ben Yaakov. He said, please, I don't want to have anything to do with it. One time, the Chavetz Chaim Zecher Tzadik Levracha Schus Yogan Aleinu gave a shmuz about the ugliness of machlokes. The ugliness of machlokes. And he quotes a letter that the Rambam wrote to his son. I'm going to read you this excerpt of the letter because it's not only poetic, but it's frightening. This is written by the Rambam, who knew everything. Writes the Rambam. And this is fatherly advice to a son. Writes the Rambam. Al tishaktzu es nafshei seichem. Don't make your soul abominable, disgusting. That's what we call it. People say, Rapam said you shouldn't do it because Goya shagets. Because he eats chocolate-covered water bugs, you know. Al tishaktzu es nafshei seichem. Don't pollute your souls. Don't make your soul abominable. B'machloikis. Hamechala haguf v'hanefesh, which eats up the body and the soul, and v'hamama, and one's money. He says, uman neshroit, so then what's left? He eats up the body, the soul, and the money. What's left? Says the Rambam, let me tell you from my experiences, he says. Re'isi, I saw Lebanim, Re'isi Levanim Hishchiru. I saw those that are white become black. Umechuzas nechravu. I saw avenues get destroyed. Mishpachos nisbechu. Families swept away. Sarim haridu. Nobles brought down. Migedulasam. Ayoras nis gedolos nis araru. Great metropolises uprooted. Kibbutzim nifredu. Collections of people separated. Anshe emuna ovdu, men of trust perished. V'nechpadim nikalu, honored person became humiliated, debased. V'nizbazu, and totally humbled. V'sibas hamachlokes, because of machlokes. That's what Rambam writes. The consequences, the fallout of machlokes. Listen to the Loshinas over here. Large cities uprooted, honorable people lost, families swept away. Ask Rav Moshe Landisky, it's quoted by the Chavetz Chaim. If Yaakov was mispalel in this week's parsha, b'kaholam al teichet kavodi, why wasn't he mispalel that there shouldn't be the machlokes? He saw ahead the machlokes of Kairach. So he was mispalel b'kaholam al teichet kavodi, be mispalel that there shouldn't be. Hashem, please, it's man kindle, save them from machlokes. Oh, he gives an answer that's so frightening. He says to be mispalel that there shouldn't be machlokes is a tfilas shav. It's like being mispalel that there shouldn't be any sickness there if it's there already. It's like being mispalel in the 8th month that it should be a boy when it's already a girl. It's a tfilah shav. Says Rav Landisky, quoted by the Chavetz Chaim, Shematchloikis tamid yeh, it's a part of the bria machlokes. Just you should be mispalel, you shouldn't have shaykhs with it, like Yaakov did. B'kaholam I'll take, please, keep me out of machlokes. Keep me out of machlokes. Shevet Moser writes that if you want to know the importance of shalom, look at the gnus, the ugliness of machlokes. He writes, Gzeiros mishunais magia lebali machlokes. Just like Kairach being swallowed alive, and as I've told you many times, that Rav Miller used to say that's only a model. You go to any Beis HaKfaros on Tisha B'Av, and you see people die at 43 and 39 and 28 and 54. The ground opens up and swallows many bali machlokes alive. He says, the kama kosha machlokes. Listen to what he writes. He says, because by the Cheta Egel, the day of the Cheta Egel, the month still came down. But Shteiten Medish, the day of Adas Kairach, the month didn't come down. This is what it says. Machlokes achas doicha meir parnassus. One machlokes pushes away 100 parnassus. The day of the Egel month came down. Says the Shevet Moser, the day of the Adas Kairach, the month didn't go down. Several million people went hungry. The Milas Amidus says something to really think about. He says, In everything in this world you will find good. Everything. You could in everything in this world you will find good except the machlokes. He says the raya is that by the Seder Abriya, the only time it didn't say Ki Tov is on the second day, when Hashem created machlokes. In everything else you could find good. By machlokes there's no good. No good. Mesechtas Derech Eretz Zuta, Perek Tes, Machlokes bebeisai, Machlokes bebayis sefer licharav. There's fighting in the house. That house will be dismantled. Machlokes bebeisa knesses sefer lispaza. As machlokes in shul, it's going to unravel. Machlokes be'ir shvichas damim here. People want to know why the homicide rate has risen. Machlokes be'ir shvichas damim be'ir. So I want to weigh in. I want to add something that I've observed. Why is it that we know how bad machlokes is? Once machlokes starts, people can't stop. And I've realized that there's a tremendous koyach hamshacha of machlokes. Machlokes pulls people. It's like a quicksand. It sucks people in. Now they have to be right. They are right. So they have to be right. Otherwise everybody will think that they're wrong. There's a koyach hamshacha. And it dawned on me, that's why machlokes is compared to Eish. Eish shel machlokes, because that's what a fire does. A fire doesn't stop, it keeps on going. As long as there's something in front of it, it keeps on going. It doesn't stop, it goes stronger. It's the koyach hamshacha of machlokes. And that's what it says. You find it, I'll prove it to you. Once a husband and wife start fighting, it just keeps on going. What happened? We were never fighting. All of a sudden we're fighting. What happened? It just doesn't. Because that's the koyach hamshacha of machlokes. That's why it says, Ish v'isha shalom beinayim, shchina shruya beinayim. The yud of the ish and the hay of the isha. But what happens when you take away the yud and the hay? You have ish. The ish becomes ish and the ish becomes, that's fire. That's the fire of machlokes. It's a koyach hamshacha. And therefore a person has to say, I gotta stop this. I gotta stop it. Otherwise it's gonna eat me alive. And the Rambam who wrote such a letter, he is the one that wrote in the Pirush in Hilchos Chanukah that's the whole Torah. That's the Rambam who wrote on the whole Torah. Shekol HaTorah kula nitna l'atzu shalom ba'olam. Shenema d'cher d'achenoyam. And therefore Rav Humaner says what we can do is when we daven in Shemon Esrei Sim Shalom in Shalom Rav, please Hashem, I know there's always going to be machlokes in the world, and I know machlokes is an anagram of Chelek Mavis, but please keep it away from me, keep it away from my family, keep it away from my loved ones. B'kaholam, like Yaakov, b'kaholam al teichet kavaydi. It doesn't just mean his name. It means keep me out of a congregation of machlokes. Rabbi say, Marav will be here at 11:30. I have my annual highlights of the Agudah Convention. People that have heard it have really enjoyed it. That CD is available, where I speak out from many different people of what I heard at the Agudah Convention. Some of the speakers this year is Rav Brudny, Rabbi Feiner, Rabbi Wallerstein, Chaim David Zwiebel, just to name a few. Tonight's CD will be available shortly. They're quickly. Power benching pocket size is going out of print, so it's still available here for the small price of $10. And if you want to really learn benching slowly, we have the regular bencher at $25. Both are a tremendous bargain. Again, the Agudah Convention CD is ready already now, and tonight's CD shortly.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.